Hello everyone, in this video I wanted to talk about automotive wings and how we can find out if they work on your car. I don't want to make you watch the whole video just to find out if the test works or not, so here's a quick summary. I used a laser measure that you can buy on Amazon to test my APR GTC-300 wing on my S2000, and it worked okay. By okay, I mean it's not perfect, but it's much better than nothing, especially considering it will cost less than $100 and take less than a day of work. With the test conducted, I'm reasonably confident that the wing is generating less than 100 pounds of downforce, which is much less than what I led myself to believe after my online searching before the purchase. Now, if you'd like to know more about the test, how I did it, and if you can do the same on your setup, please continue to watch. To give you a bit of a background, I have an S2000 that I use to participate in track events. And after noticing some rear-end instability, especially in high-speed corners, I was in the market for a rear wing. And I saw that APR GTC line was quite popular on S2000s. And I already have their front splitter, so I knew they make products of fair quality. But considering its popularity, I was surprised by the lack of data to support its performance. I took a deep dive into some of the related forum posts, and I realized that most of them are anecdotal statements. They can be helpful from time to time, but you know that butt dyno is highly subjective and may not be the most reliable tool. I also found this page on APR website. It's unfortunate that their CFD simulation was done without any vehicle attached to the wing. While it's an understandable decision since the wing is marketed for lots and lots of vehicles, but it would have been a lot more helpful if they ran it with some type of representative vehicle. As I mentioned, however, it's understandable. Including a car in the simulation would have been a lot of extra cost. The simulation seems to be done in 2007, and simulations in general were much more expensive back then. I feel that it's pretty important to have some sort of an estimate of the downforce a new part that I'm putting on my car is generating. One of my concerns is the front to rear balance. It should be taken into consideration for the front aero, or at least for the suspension alignment. And without the data that are relevant for my car, I just couldn't determine whether getting their GTC-300 was a good idea. So I did the logical thing and bought one anyways. So at least I can now do some tests myself and share the data with the community. Just sharing the data on my car and my specific wing, however, will not be very helpful for those who have different vehicles and wing designs. So I wanted to identify an easy way of testing the effectiveness of your rear wing, something quick and dirty that a lot of us can replicate relatively easily and economically. So here's what I did for the test. I purchased a laser distance measuring device with Bluetooth connectivity on Amazon. I'll explain why the Bluetooth connectivity is important later. It was about $60 when I purchased it. I'll put the link in the description below. And then I purchased this bracket. I attached the laser device on the bracket and bolted it on the license plate area. The idea is to monitor the distance between the device and the ground. If the rear wing creates downforce, it will compress my rear suspension, which then will reduce the distance between the device and the ground. And I can measure this with the wing on, off, or at different angles of attack to find out the difference. And if you prefer, you can mount the device nearer to the ground, but the device was surprisingly precise and accurate at the distance, so I felt comfortable just leaving it there. We need to limit any types of play, as they obviously will make a significant impact. Once the device is firmly attached to your car, it's time to do a quick stationary test. Make some measurements at a few different spots and see how the measurement changes. And it's probably a good time to figure out the measuring trigger as well. The device I purchased has an app for iPhones and Android phones, which allowed me to trigger the device using my phone. This is the reason I bought one with the Bluetooth connectivity. Now, while being stationary, let's add a bit of weight to the trunk of the car and see how the measurement changes. In my case, adding 100 pounds to the trunk reduced the rear ride height by around 11 millimeter, and adding 160 pounds reduced the height by 18 millimeter. And now it's time to hop on your car and drive around to find the most straight, flat, and smooth piece of road. You'd also want to avoid the area with heavy traffic, as the cars in front of you will affect the airflow. And now keep your car at a constant speed and take your measurements. You want to avoid acceleration or deceleration because it will pitch your car forward or backward. Cruise control might be helpful. I'd also highly recommend taking multiple measurements on the flat, straight, and smooth patch of road. Statistics always help. I made 10 measurements, 10 seconds from each other, throughout the path, which was about 2 miles long. I repeated the procedure a couple of times, which turned out to be a good idea. You can see a little bump that's consistently happening over the 3 runs in this graph. It turned out there's a slight imperfection in this area of the road, which I would have written off as measurement errors unless I had multiple runs. I repeated the procedure with the wing off and on at 2 different angles of attack. For each run, after making sure that there isn't any outlier, I averaged them to create this table. Unfortunately, I could only get the car up to 90 miles per hour, but it'd be interesting to see how it changes at higher speed. According to the test, there are no proof of downforce generated by the wing at the lowest angle of attack. The 1 millimeter difference may well be within the error range. At the steepest angle of attack, the ride height is reduced by 8 millimeter at 90 miles per hour. Considering that the stationary test, when the ride height was reduced by 11 millimeter with 100 pounds weight in the trunk, it is likely that the wing is creating less than 100 pounds of downforce at 90 miles per hour, which is significantly lower than about 200 pounds that APR advertises according to their CFD data. I'm not surprised to see lower value than advertised. As I mentioned before, their CFD study was done without any car in front of it, which means that the study is assuming that the wing is exposed to free flow of air. With a huge structure like a car in front of it, the results will obviously be different. To give you an idea, here's a CFD simulation ran on S2000. You can see the flow separation, that the airflow is no longer following the car body shape after the roofline. We can also see that the area which the wing is positioned would not get 90 miles per hour airflow. This is the reason a lot of people get the wing risers to lift the wing up to the area where it's going to get relatively free flow of air. So, hey, maybe this guy ended up with this setup after years of research, but probably not. As a closing remark, please allow me to remind you that this probably is not an accurate test. The way your suspension and ride height behaves while the car is in motion is highly dynamic, and there are too many variables. But with that being said, if done right, I think this method can be an excellent comparison tool. For instance, it may tell you that your wing is generating enough downforce to change your ride height at a certain speed, or that your wing is generating double the downforce at the steepest setting compared to the lowest setting. And if you find a wing that generates so much downforce, then it may be worthwhile to do the test on the front side of your car to see if the wing is pushing the rear so much that it's lifting the front. I also conducted a similar test using TOF 10120 connected to Arduino Uno attached to the suspension parts. The test surprisingly supported this quick and dirty method pretty well. Okay, that's it for the video. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in my next video.